Hey there, everyone. Will DuPree in the KXAN live studio. We are back once again with a few more numbers after the polls closed just about an hour ago all across Texas. And here joining us are two special guests we have right now here in our studio is Ed Espinoza. He is the Executive Director of Progress Texas and the host and executive producer of the State of Texas. That's Josh Hinkle to his right there. Guys, thanks for joining us here. And how's that going tonight?
It's been pretty good so far. Yeah, waiting on some of these results.
Josh, I want to come to you first and let us know kind of what you're looking at and what you're seeing at this point too across the state.
Well, all day we've been talking about the long lines and some of the challenges that voters have had in casting their ballots. We had some problems earlier in Travis County. There were some problems with the Secretary of State's website. We've been kind of hit or miss at a couple of different polling locations across the state, but right now there's still a lot of people that are waiting in line because they were standing in line and when the polls closed officially at 7 o'clock. So the rule is if you are in line, then you should get to cast your ballot afterwards. So we're waiting on that, and then we're just waiting on totals to come in also to see really what's going to shake out from this big night for Texas.
So many numbers to crunch at this point. Ed, I want to come to you. You've been looking at numbers across the state. We saw some early voting totals here in Travis County alone, and it showed Bernie Sanders at least leading in the presidential primary. What are you seeing in the numbers that you've looked at so far?
So the early vote coming in from around the state right now shows that it's a tight race between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And the thing to keep in mind about the early vote is that Biden didn't really start to pick up steam until the end of early vote. So the election day number could end up looking a lot different than early vote. By the way, Biden not doing so great in Travis County. This is not a place where he was going to do great to begin with. So this will probably be his weakest showing, and for him, it should be all looking much better once East and West Texas comes in, which we haven't started to see those numbers just yet.
All right, yeah, lots of numbers coming in for sure as we get those coming into our newsroom. Once again, if you're just joining us, we have the host and executive producer of the State of Texas. That's Josh Hinkle. And then there on the left is Ed Espinoza. He's the executive director of Progress Texas. Guys, again, thank you for joining us. And we have one more guest out there in the field, one of our reporters, Wes Rapaport. He is joining us from the Texas Democrats Watch Party here in Austin. Wes, I want to go to you and just tell us what you're tracking, what you're seeing there. What's the mood at the party that you're attending at the moment?
Hi, Will. Well, less of a party and more of a war room here at the Texas Democratic Party headquarters. Folks from the House Democratic, House Democratic leaders are here as well as members of the Texas Democratic Party, watching results come in, watching this happen here in real time, and plotting how to react and plotting what those steps moving forward are going to look like here, Will. So lots happening here. They've got us kind of sectioned off into several different rooms. This is the room where some of the state representatives and other candidates have come through, and we'll talk to the press, speaking to members of the media, and then they have some other rooms off to the side in other parts of this building where they are kind of working on watching those results and kind of charting how things are going across the state, Will.
All right, once again, that is one of our reporters, Wes Rapaport, joining the Texas Democrats this evening as those results come in. Wes, is there any particular candidate that has gotten people excited there at the race so far? Any numbers that have made people kind of get up their energy a little bit?
Well, I think that one thing that you're going to see here throughout the night is that the Texas Democrats are excited about what they're seeing here. I mean, I think that they are they are enthused, they are invigorated. Seeing a particularly high turnout. We were just speaking with Senate candidate MJ Hager a short time ago, and she said, turnout means that more voters are voting. It means that more voices are being heard. It means that presumably, in her case, more people casting ballots for her, but more Democratic voters in general. So more turnout means more turnout for everybody, and so I think that bodes well for this election cycle for sure, Will.
All right, that is Wes Rapaport again reporting from Austin in the Texas Democrats Watch Party. Wes, we're going to let you go so that you can keep on reporting, but thank you again for joining us here on our streaming platforms. Once again, Wes Rapaport, everybody. Back here in the studio with Ed Espinoza and Josh Hinkle. We did mention, this Texas Senate race, particularly the Democratic primary, very crowded at this point. What are you seeing right now at the moment, Ed, with the vote totals coming in?
So Hager is the leader, it looks like, everywhere around the state right now. And depending on the county you look like, the person running in second varies greatly. I think it looked like Royce West was leading in his home county of Dallas. Amanda Edwards was leading in her home county of Harris. After that, you've got Christina Zinzun doing well around the state. She's doing very well in Travis County, and she is neck and neck with Hagar in San Antonio right now, Bexar County. So this is a race that shows Hagar is really the one to beat, and I think that's something that we knew going into Election Day. The question is, who is going to be the runner-up? And right now, there's still no clarity on that yet.
Ed, I'm just wondering also about when and if very possibly this goes into a runoff situation. That's a lot of effort that they're going to have to be spending for a couple more months on someone from their own party instead of worrying about the general election and going up against Senator Cornyn. Does that put them at a disadvantage?
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation. It's kind of reminiscent of what we've been seeing in the presidential race. I think that's something that they're going to have to sort out. The question for me is MJ Hager going to get a percentage that is so high that she can come close to winning this outright? Now, that would be very unlikely, but some of the early numbers tonight showed her that she was north of 40%. If that trend continues and keeps going up, then we have an important conversation on our hands. If not, then that's just going to be the way it goes. We're going to have to go to a runoff, and while it's not ideal in the Senate race, it's also not uncommon in Texas. We see it a lot at the state house level, at the congressional level, and if this becomes a race of interest in the general election, which I think it could, the national money will come in.
And the thing with a state like Texas, it being so big with so many different metropolitan areas and different geographical areas, is getting people interested in one candidate that they might not know in other places is a little tougher than someone who has statewide recognition already.
Well, it could, but I think the thing to remember is that 2/3 of Texans either don't know John Cornyn or don't like him. So that is something that Democrats have going for them heading into the general election. The other thing is that the motivation for people to participate in this election is extremely high right now on both sides of the aisle. So you're going to have a hyper-mobilized electorate in 2020 that you normally don't see, and that's definitely going to help. People, for once, may actually seek out the information instead of all the information trying to find its way to people. That's a unique circumstance in 2020, and a welcome one, I would say.
One question I have for you, Ed, is that with the numbers that are coming in so far that we're seeing with not only early voting but today's totals, what kind of signal does that send to November for those more progressive or liberal Democratic candidates?
The turnout has been bananas so far. It's been so high that you're looking at Democratic turnout that is maybe not quite at parity with Republican turnout just yet, but getting pretty close, which is saying a lot in Texas right now. What it means is there is a lot of enthusiasm for the Democratic ticket in Texas, not just in Austin, but in Dallas and Harris and other parts of the state. That is an important message for Democrats who have really been building a strong organization in the state over the past few years, and you can see that carrying into the general election. Look, I think that paired with the idea of Trump being on the ballot is going to really make for an interesting general election in Texas, one that we haven't seen in quite a while.
And with last night's endorsements of Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and Texas's own Beto O'Rourke, did that have much effect, you think, on the numbers that we're seeing today for Joe Biden? At the moment, he is pulling in second behind Bernie Sanders across the state with only 25% of precincts reporting just across the state.
I believe they're calling it the Whataburger primary. And I think that, it is having an effect. Look, typically endorsements for a candidate might just be worth one good news cycle, but it happens to be a big news cycle before a big election. So I think that it can make a difference. There were a lot of undecided Democrats who didn't know where to go, and they were kind of waiting to find out what happened in South Carolina. And then after South Carolina, there was a lot of action. You had 3 candidates drop out over the course of 3 days. That, as far as I know, is unprecedented in the modern era of presidential politics. So that is a really big move. It'll be fun to read the long read on that someday, but in the meantime, it's meant momentum for Biden heading into Super Tuesday, which is why these early numbers are important, because what we see here may actually show Biden underperforming of how he could be doing on election day. So if he's within range of a couple of points of Bernie in the early vote, he could easily make up for that on election day with the momentum that he's had so far.
We also are seeing what the future of Senator Elizabeth Warren's candidacy is. In the early vote total in Travis County alone, she was pulling in second. It's obviously a much more liberal constituency here. Where do you see her going at this point if she cannot pull ahead in Texas or one of the other states on Super Tuesday?
As far as her performance in Texas, she's still pulling in second in Travis County. She was previously doing that as well. She will get delegates out of Travis County. She tends to do very well amongst white audiences who are college educated. Obviously, Travis County is a bastion of that. Having UT here helps. And I think that how she does in other areas, look, she was very close to viability in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. But viability doesn't necessarily go county-wide. It's by state Senate district. So she could have been 11% in one district and 16% in another. She will get delegates out of Texas. What that means for her long-term depends on how she does across the board tonight. Can she bring in enough to pull her into a third-place position? Very possible in a Super Tuesday contest where there are so many delegates. But the other factor here is Mike Bloomberg. And can he get enough? The question I've got for myself, and I know other people have wondered, is that we know that he pulls some votes away from Biden. Did some of those voters go home to Biden today, or did they stick with Mike Bloomberg? And I think that you can't talk about Warren without really looking at where Bloomberg's going. It's really, they're really tethered here, their prospects are.
All right, everybody, you have been listening to Ed Espinoza, the Executive Director of Progress Texas, and the host and executive producer of the State of Texas program, Josh Hinkle, to his right there. Thank you all for watching our live stream. Guys, Ed, Josh, anything you want to add before we wrap up our live stream here in just a moment? Ed, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
No, I just think that it's going to be a long night.
Yes, we're in it for the long haul at this point. Josh, what about you?
A long night, maybe morning, maybe into the afternoon.
So get comfortable, everybody. Maybe the suit jackets and ties will come off at some point too tonight. Also, Ed, one more question I had that just kind of crossed my mind at this point. There's been some discussion about people having some discomfort about Bernie Sanders potentially leading the ticket as a self-described Democratic socialist. In your view, as someone who advocates for liberal policies here in Texas, what effect do you think that'll have, in your opinion?
I think that's probably the thing that is causing some anxiety amongst folks right now. It's not necessarily the policies that he's pushing as much as it is the branding around those policies. And what some people think of when they think of socialism. Democratic socialism, obviously not the same as authoritarian socialism, which was fought in World War II, and I think some people struggle with that. Look, the bottom line is that the policies that Bernie Sanders is pushing, things like healthcare, affordable college, housing issues, those are all very popular issues. They might be on the left, but they're also mainstream with their popularity. It's that branding that people need to get past. Bernie has been able to do it so far. Can he do it past being a senator from Vermont? Well, so far his popularity has seemed to make it work. We'll really find out when this race winnows down to 2 or 3 people and to see if he can maintain the momentum that he's had so far.
Do you guys expect the field to winnow potentially tomorrow?
I think so. I think there's going to be some decisions made tonight or early tomorrow. I would expect someone is probably not going to be in the field this time come next week, when we go up to the next big primary challenges.
I'm out of the predictions game after the last 3 days.
It's been pretty wild. Oh my goodness.
I know that Bloomberg spent more on Super Tuesday than the LA Dodgers have on their payroll, and we're only a couple days into it, first time him being on the ballot, so I don't know.
Your guess is as good as anyone else's, I guess.
That's right.
Well, Ed Espinoza, everyone, and Josh Hinkle, thank you both for joining us. We do appreciate that. We're going to let you guys go because I think you're going to be doing a cut-in on KXAN, so you guys can tune in and watch that. For now, we're going to end our stream. You can follow along with our reporting as well as a live blog on our website, kxan.com.